Well, we all know that Donald J. Trump is one of the single best trolls that's ever lived. But boy, today might just take the cake because, oh, have you heard? Oh, you just take a seat. You're going to love this. So 2 days ago, what was it, on Monday or Tuesday? Nancy Pelosi sends this letter. I have it here. Let me read it to you. Sends this letter to the president. Dear Mr. President, on January 3rd, it was my privilege as Speaker to invite you to deliver the State of the Union address on January 29th. The Constitution calls for the President to, quote, from time to time, give the Congress information of the State of the Union, end quote. During the 19th century and up until the presidency of Woodrow Wilson, these annual State of the Union messages were delivered to Congress in writing. And since the start of modern budgeting in fiscal year 1977, a State of the Union address has never been delivered during a government shutdown. In September 2018, Secretary Nielsen designated the State of the Union addresses as national special security events, recognizing the need for, quote, the full resources of the federal government to be brought to bear, end quote, to ensure the security of these events. The extraordinary demands presented by the NSSEs, that's these National Special Security Events, require weeks of detailed planning with dozens of agencies working together to prepare for the safety of all participants. The U.S. Secret Service was designated as the lead federal agency responsible for coordinating, planning, exercising, and implementing security for the National Special Security Events by Public Law 106-544, December 19, 2000. However, both the U.S. Secret Service and the Department of Homeland Security have not been funded for 26 days now, with critical departments hamstrung by furloughs. Sadly, given the security concerns, and unless government reopens this week, I suggest that we work together to determine another suitable date after the government has reopened for this address, or for you to consider delivering your State of the Union address in writing to the Congress on January 29th. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House. Well, it was interesting. We didn't hear anything from Donald Trump about this. Didn't tweet about it. It was just silence. It was very interesting. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump releases this letter to the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives. Dear Madam Speaker, this was today. Due to the shutdown, I am sorry to inform you that your trip to Brussels, Egypt, and Afghanistan has been postponed. We will reschedule this 7-day excursion. I can't even read this with a straight face. When the shutdown is over. In light of the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay, I am sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. I also feel that during this period, it would be better if you were in Washington negotiating with me and joining the strong border security movement to end the shutdown. Obviously, if you would like to make your journey by flying commercial, that would certainly be your prerogative. I look forward to seeing you soon, and even more forward to watching our open and dangerous southern border finally receive the attention, funding, and security it so desperately deserves. I mean, this is just so great. I mean, this is just the master troll at work. It's so fascinating. It's so exciting. It gets your emotions running a little bit just to see the, I mean, it doesn't matter what side you're on. It's just funny. I mean, it's hilarious. It's like we're watching a comedy show. So here's a little more details. They were on a bus. They had kept this really, really quiet. Nobody knew. In fact, aides to many of the Congress people didn't know this up until an hour before they were about to go and catch this flight on Air Force 3, a military plane. So they've got all of their luggage. There's photos of their luggage outside the door, outside Nancy Pelosi's office, I think, or outside one of their offices. And they were all on a bus, and they were on their way to the airport. Midway, Donald Trump releases this letter, and they literally have to turn the bus around and drive back, humiliated. I got to tell you, I mean, we haven't seen this kind of activity, this kind of hilarity amongst politicians in D.C. for a long time. But it's not without precedent. If you go back in America's history, and most countries' history for that matter, you will see that politicians really do some incredibly crazy stuff to each other. At least, there's no one breaking out in fisticuffs anymore. This is quite interesting. Thank you so much for the attention that the podcast that I did 2 days ago received. I was quite impressed with that. See here on YouTube, that got almost 1,000 views so far. Well, that's significantly more than I was expecting. So thank you so very much. Somebody said, I can't find where the Gillette ad says masculinity is bad. The commercial says exactly what you were promoting. Must have been watching a different commercial there, I guess, because I'm certainly not alone in the way that I saw that Gillette commercial. I'm going to perhaps do several podcasts a day. I want to keep them short and sweet, and that way you can read the titles and know what they're about and not have to sit through stuff that you're just not interested in. I'm going to be talking a lot about science, a lot about the history of the Earth, some of the discoveries I've made, about our ancient history, starting to connect some dots that, interestingly enough, no one else seems to have made before, and yet are quite clear. So we'll get into that, but this podcast, this episode is now over, and I will see you on the next one very shortly.